Hello everyone! What if I told you that in the next few minutes, you'll see how to make your AI workflows talk to the entire internet? Today, I'm showing you Agentic Flow's API call feature, the secret sauce that turns isolated AI agents into powerful automation machines that can fetch real-time data, update systems, and connect with any service on the internet. But first, let us understand what we're dealing with. An API call in Agentic Flow is like giving your AI workflow superpowers. Instead of just processing text, your workflow can now fetch live data from services like weather, stocks, or like news feeds, update external systems like CRMs, databases, or other project management tools, or even send notifications through Slack, email, or SMS services. Basically, your workflow can integrate with any web service that has an API. Think of it this way. Your AI workflow becomes the brain and API calls becomes its hands and eyes, allowing it to interact with the real world in real time. So today, let me demonstrate how API calls work on Agentic Flow with a simple example. So the demonstration will be using a news API to fetch news on the internet using an API call, and then we'll format this news and draft an email which you can then send to your customers. So let me show you how this works. So firstly, what we want to do is to head over to workflows. We'll create a new workflow. I'll just call it news sender, and we'll just create a workflow. So the next step is to add a new API call node. So as you can see, it's here. I'll just add it in, delete the generate text. So to configure this API call node, we need to paste in a URL for it to call the API. So many APIs are available on the internet, but for demonstration purposes today, I'll be using this news API. So on this website, as you can see, the link is already available for you to do an API call. So I'll just use this one. So basically it fetches articles about Tesla. Okay, so I'll just use this. I'll paste it here. And then for the method, because we want to retrieve information from the internet, we'll just use get. And then after that, we'll just hit save. So at this point, you may be wondering, how exactly does an API call work with Agentic Flow? So it works like this. Your workflow sends a structured request message, basically like a letter with specific instructions to an external services server, asking for data or to perform an action. So for example, here we are basically asking the server to give us news about Tesla. So, and this service, this news site in our example, will respond with the requested information in a standardized format. So what Agentic Flow does is that it handles all the technical details like authentication, error handling, or data formatting issues, so that our workflow can automatically process and act on that live data without any coding required. So technicalities aside, right, to show you some tangible results, I'll be running whatever is fetched through this API call through an AI, and then I'll get the AI's output and then create a draft via email so that we can all see how useful this is. Okay, so I'll ask Claude. Okay. And then I'll just ask it to process the data from so I'll just ask it to process the data we got from this variable, which is the API, what we received from the API call. Okay, and then I'll save. And then after that, I will ask it to send it to my Gmail, create a draft on my Gmail using an MCP action. So create draft, and I'll just ask it to use the output from Claude to create a summary email. Okay, from there I'll just hit save. Once I'm done with this simple workflow, I'll run it to show you how it works. So I'll just click on single run. I'll run the workflow. Doesn't matter the variables. So you can see it running. So first you'll call the API. You'll ask Claude to process the output from the API, and then it will create a draft from my Gmail. Just give it a moment to process. So as you can see, the email has been processed. It has created a draft email. So we'll head over to my email and we'll see if the draft is created. So as you can see, a draft email has been created with a summary of the news fed from the API. Through this simple demonstration, we can see the usefulness of API calls and how they work with agentic flow. So previously, our AI workflows work in isolation and systems were disconnected. To achieve this, we would have to do manual data entry and updates, and information might be outdated. So through this, by using this, we can have real-time automation where the workflows react to live data. We can do this by scheduling. And then we can have system synchronization, whereby all our tools talk to each other via APIs. This transforms agentic flow from a helpful assistant into a full-scale business automation platform. Alright, thank you for watching this video. I hope this simple demonstration helped you to improve and supercharge your business processes using API calls with agentic flow. See you next time.